Welcome back to Crimes Without Borders. I'm CB, your narrator into the world's most chilling, unsolved, and gruesome crimes. Tonight, we travel back to Germany. The year is 1922.
A remote farmhouse, 6 bodies, and a murderer who didn't just kill, rather he stayed. This is the story of the Hinterkaifeck Murders, a mystery that still haunts Bavaria more than a century later. In a lonely farmstead, surrounded by thick Bavarian woods an hour north of Munich, the Gruber family lived here. Andreas, his wife Cecilia, their widowed daughter Victoria, and her 2 children, little Cecilia and baby Joseph. They had a maid too, but she'd just quit. She said the house felt haunted. Days before the murders, the family began hearing footsteps in the attic, though no one was there. Andreas found footprints in the snow, leading from the forest to his house, but none leading back. Inside, doors unlocked themselves. Keys went missing. And one night, a newspaper appeared on their kitchen table, one that no one in the family subscribed to. Something, or someone, was already inside.
The night of March 31st, 1922. It was a cold Friday evening. One by one, the Grubers were lured out to the barn. Maybe they heard an animal, maybe a voice, no one knows. But there, in the dark, they were struck down by a mattock, a heavy farm tool with a blade like an axe. First Andreas, then his wife, then Victoria, then little Cecilia, each blow deliberate, each skull crushed. Inside the house, the new maid, who had started that very day, was killed in her room, and baby Joseph was murdered in his cot. 6 lives, snuffed out in one night. But here's where the story becomes truly terrifying. For 4 days after the murders, smoke still rose from the farmhouse chimney. The cows were milked, the dog was fed. Someone was still there. Neighbors noticed the family hadn't been seen, but assumed they were busy with spring work. Mail piled up. The schoolteacher reported that little Cecilia hadn't come to class. Finally, on April 4th, neighbors entered the farm. In the barn, under a pile of hay, they found the bodies, stacked neatly, as if placed with care. The smell of blood hung in the air, and somewhere inside the farmhouse, food from the kitchen was still warm. When the police arrived from Munich, they found chaos. Not just a crime, but a nightmare. The killer had lived there comfortably after the murders, meals cooked and eaten, animals tended to, beds slept in. He had made himself at home. The weapon was found buried in the barn, but fingerprints were smeared, no money was taken. So what was the motive? Hundreds were questioned. Old farmhands, jealous lovers, even Victoria's rumoured boyfriend. Nothing fit, no confessions, no witnesses. And then came the theories. One theory, the most whispered one, said it was Carl Gabriel, Victoria's husband, who was believed dead in World War I. Some villagers swore they'd seen him alive after the war. Could he have returned to find his wife had a child by another man and taken revenge? But records confirmed Carl died in battle. Another theory said it was a drifter, a stranger who found shelter in the attic and struck when the time was right. But who would stay after? Who would feed animals and cook meals beside corpses? And then there was the darkest rumor, that Andreas Gruber had an incestuous relationship with Victoria, and the murders were the result of a secret, twisted rage. No theory ever fit all the pieces, because the truth of Hinterkaifeck is this: the killer didn't come from outside. The killer might have already been inside. Years passed. The farmhouse was demolished. The skulls of the victims were sent to Munich for psychic readings, desperate attempts to find the murderer. Nothing. And when the war came again, memories of Hinterkaifeck faded, but never disappeared. Locals say on cold nights, when the wind cuts across the fields, you can still hear the creak of the old barn door. Footsteps, sometimes 2 sets, sometimes 1. What's more astonishing, the Hinterkaifeck murders remain one of Europe's most chilling unsolved crimes. A family slaughtered, a killer who stayed, and a century-old question that refuses to die. Who was inside the house before the blood was spilled? Maybe we'll never know, but as long as there are footsteps in the snow leading one way and never back, the story of Hinterkaifeck will keep whispering through time. If you think you've heard every story of evil, think again. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and tell me in the comments, who do you think lived inside the Gruber farmhouse that night? Until next time, remember, evil knows no borders.